Hey everyone, welcome to another edition of the PREdiCCT IBD podcast. Today, who do we have today? Well, today I'm going to be in conversation with Phil and Lisa. So that's Phil Jenkinson, our surgical clinical research fellow for PREdiCCT, and Lisa Durr, trial manager extraordinaire, the person that's running the shop, the person in charge of everything that we are doing, the person that keeps the study safe, that keeps us doing everything we should do by the book, which is so important for clinical research today. We're going to be talking about PREdiCCT recruitment. We're going to be talking about where we are now, where we're going. And also I'll be explaining a bit about the original concept behind PREdiCCT, where we got to, where the ideas came from, and a little bit about what we're trying to achieve. So I really hope you'll enjoy this conversation today. Great privilege for me to be involved with that. Before we do, I just want to put a huge flag out for the study sponsors, without whom PREdiCCT would never really have got off the ground. Many people are contributing and helping, not least the participants who are enrolling into the study. But it's with the funding from Cure Crohn's and Colitis, from 3CS, and from the Chief Scientist Office. And there are a few people there that have really helped there. So Ivor Tiffenborn, Michael Series in particular, who run really quite small charities, but who do a huge amount of hard work and put, a relatively enormous investment into PREdiCCT, really putting their faith behind what we're doing. And thank you guys so much. We're getting there. The study is producing, I think, enormously important results. And so thank you for your continued support. So without further ado, here we are in conversation about PREdiCCT.
Hi, Charlie.
Hi, Phil.
So there's a huge amount of interest in PREdiCCT. Can you take us right back to the very start? How did you come up with the idea for PREdiCCT?
So yeah, PREdiCCT's been going, in my head for 4 or 5 years now, really from the original conception to where we're at now. And Lisa's going to give us an update and a snapshot of where we're at in a minute. But so seeing this come to life now for me means so much. I wanted to really try and answer some really big questions that patients were coming up to us in the clinic and asking, which is, what can I do to help? What should I eat? How should I live? How can I make a difference to what's going on with my Crohn's disease or my ulcerative colitis so I can live my life better? People were also interested in what causes the disease. And yes, we're very, very interested in that too. But to my mind, what I started to think about was, if we could work out the things that were causing patients to flare up, if we could work out how to eradicate some of them, if we could work out how to do that bit more on top of what we were doing already with medicines and the conventional things that we were doing, and to get some really hard data around it, then that would be potentially utterly transformative. Now, to get there, probably we're looking at interventional studies along the way, but what was very clear to me was that there was a real lack of carefully collected prospective data in large numbers of patients over time. Because as you'll know from seeing in the clinic, and Lisa's probably already starting to appreciate, is that IBD isn't just Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis. Everyone's disease is different, and all the different aspects that come together for an individual person. There's so many different things, from where the disease is, to how it behaves, to the different genetic parts, to the microbes in someone's gut, what they're eating, what they've done in their life, and then that going forwards, it's a complex thing. So I knew that we needed to have a look at a lot of people.
Was there a eureka moment? We've all seen your animations with the monkey. Was there any one particular inspirational moment for you?
So there were a couple of things, and perhaps the thing that really struck home to me was that to look at causality is very, very hard. And the thing when looking at anything in IBD is you're not quite sure, if you look at a snapshot, is what is cause and effect. So many studies have tried to work out things in IBD by looking at people at a point in time and then going backwards. And then you never really know what's the driver, what's caused that thing to happen, what's the effect. And so we were thinking about, how do you look at that for the cause of disease? And then we were thinking about the cause of flares. And we were thinking, maybe, just maybe, the triggers that cause a disease flare are the same as the triggers that cause a disease to happen in the first place in those people who have that susceptibility. And so I guess that was probably the eureka moment. And that came along at a time when we had funders who were willing to listen and do something bold and ambitious that broke the mold a bit. And, you know, forever grateful for the guys at Cure Crohn's and Colitis and 3CS, as well as the Scottish Government with the Chief Scientist's Office, who together gave us that initial batch of funding to say, okay, go. Once we developed the protocol. So that was then the next big phase. Let's develop the protocol. Let's work out what we're going to do. Put that through a peer review process, which we did. And then from there to the next aspects, as we know, and as Lisa knows more than anything in terms of the mechanics of the trial and how it works.
So it's obviously a huge challenge getting such a complex trial off the ground. You must have relied quite heavily on sort of collaborators and other experts.
Yes,
tell us
really.
a bit through that.
Yeah, no, and it's a hugely collaborative piece of work. So there is the bit of work that goes on within the trial unit in Edinburgh, and let's let Lisa talk to that in a minute, because that's fundamentally important to running the study. There is so much, so many loopholes, paperwork, regulatory, and all the other aspects that we had to get through. But scientifically, we had to bring together a team. So we've got the team in Edinburgh. We brought together the team in Aberdeen, whose particular expertise is within the nutrition aspects of ACTS. That's such a big component. And then the other really key collaborators are those down at the Sanger Institute. So Jeff Barrett and now Carl Anderson, Luke Jostens, who's now in Oxford. These are the guys who we've spent well over a decade. So my background was in gene discovery experiments with those guys. And at the Sanger Institute, where they sequenced the first human genome, we've been doing a lot of work over time with IBD, because it's been a real poster child, as it were, for complex disease genetics, as you know, Phil. So working with those guys there and knowing that they would be able to do the sequencing of both the genome, so the PREdiCCT samples get whole genome sequence down there, and the microbiome sequencing too, was very, very, very important to us indeed. And of course, now we have Lee, who we've been talking to earlier, who's running the labs here and doing all the actual sample processing. So yeah, and you know, as you all know, the surgical input's so important too. So it's physicians, it's clinicians and surgeons, and the nutrition experts, the labs, the trial management, the Sanger with the bioinformaticians and the sequencing. It's a big effort.
It is extremely important, and also extremely important to get it right. So to answer the questions with any sort of reasonable amount of confidence, we need quite a large sample size.
Yes. Which
brings us on to recruitment, which is the key part of PREdiCCT. Lisa, how are we doing with our recruitment? We've had a big milestone fairly recently.
Yes, we have. It was very, very exciting. Yeah, so we finally reached 1,000 patients. I shouldn't say finally. It's recruitment has gone quite steadily, I would say, since the first site opened here in Edinburgh. And but we need a large sample, so we need more sites. So actually 10 days ago, we hit 1,000 recruited participants, which is huge. So exciting. It was on my birthday as well, so nice little present from the team. And actually, even since then, we recruited an additional 21 participants as of today. So there's quite
just
a lot.
In the last 10 days?
Yeah, just in 10 days.
Okay, that's really cool. So,
yeah.
So because I knew we hit 1,000 just as I got off a plane traveling like 10 days ago.
Yeah.
And so we're at 21 patients in 10 days, so effectively 2 a day.
Yeah.
So that puts us well on track then.
So yeah, absolutely. And there is a plan of having lots of new sites coming on board.
Okay.
So at the moment, I am emailing and calling sites, and it's great. I'm met with so much enthusiasm, and I find that sites really want to take part in this study. Clinicians are interested. We also get a lot of patients that contact me at the trial office saying, I'm a patient at this site. I want to take part in PREdiCCT. Can we make that happen? So, you know, I've reached out to their IBD nurses and asking if they're willing to become a PREdiCCT site.
So you were saying that you've initiated, or you've plans to initiate, a site for every single week until Christmas.
Yes, that's my ambitious plan. It's on track though. So we got 7 sites to open. that we have a date planned, and then there's another 7 where we're just finding a suitable date, because there's quite a few people that need to be attending the site initiation visit, from the consultant to the research nurses. So finding a date that suits all can be a bit tricky, but we're on track.
So at the moment, we've got most of Scotland open, right?
Correct.
Already.
Correct.
And then, so where have you been to? Because you've been to quite a few places in the last month or two.
Yeah.
So Scotland.
So we've been to 5.
Yeah.
We've opened Cambridge.
Brilliant.
We opened Exeter, and we've opened Barts in London. So that's since August. And we're going to Forth Valley.
And Northern Ireland as well.
Northern Ireland, correct. So we have a hospital in Belfast.
Okay.
Southeastern Health, but there's another site there that's very interested.
Yeah, it'd be good to get the whole of Belfast open for business.
And Wales is coming along as well.
Brilliant. Okay, great. So the whole of the UK.
There. Yeah, absolutely.
So Charlie, going forward, have you got any plans to take PREdiCCT beyond the UK?
Yeah, so I do actually, Phil, as we've discussed. So there's a couple of things that I think are really important. So PREdiCCT is all about working out what are the factors that cause disease flare. And we're going to learn a lot, as you know, from not only looking at the baseline data set to looking at patterns of flare. There's precious little information out there about patterns of flare for people who are well with IBD. And then if we can get at the causes, that will be just amazing. Then what I'd really like to do, and what people are asking as I travel, is can we do PREdiCCT in our country? And there's a lot of interest from really many, many different parts from across the world, from North America and Canada to other countries in Europe. Lots of interest from Spanish-speaking countries, and a huge interest in the Gulf region actually as well. So I'm really hoping that we might look an Arabic version. It'd be straightforward once we get the translation done, Lisa, I'm assured. Actually, if we can take PREdiCCT to 1 or 2 other regions in the world where the environment is different, but the IBD is relatively similar, and if we can roll it out, and then if we find similar signals in the UK and in the Gulf, for example, despite the different environmental influences, then I think that will be very, very strong scientifically in terms of working out what's going on, and indeed distinct things as well. So I think we could learn a huge amount by using the same methodology in different parts of the world. And, one of the things that we've done, and I've talked to you about this right the way from the start, Lisa, really, is that we've designed PREdiCCT to be truly scalable, right? So the bigger we go, we can put a price on that individual participant because of the samples and things that we collect. But as you know, we now have no paper in PREdiCCT, apart from the food diary. And that must make a difference to you in the trial office, right?
Absolutely. There's quite a lot of time that's involved with the paper questionnaires, and there's a lot of manpower hours behind inputting that.
Someone has to put it into a computer and have to get posted out.
You have to post it out. That's right. So that will make a big difference.
And we can then scale up when we go to other parts of the world, which I think, to my mind, it could be hugely important. And then what I think what we will be as important, perhaps even not more important, is then when we look at what we'll call the PREdiCCT active study, when we take people with active disease and we follow them into remission. So we look at them when they're about to start on a new drug treatment, because then we can get a handle on that other big aspect, and we can really look at drug response in a big way. Because the machinery is there. We've got the trial network established. We've got such a wonderful environment of IBD centres and researchers across the UK, as I'm sure you've experienced, from the great work that Tarek Ahmed and his team did with Claire Bouchy down in Exeter to set up the PRED4, and then the PANT study looking at drug toxicity and looking at TNF alpha drug response in IBD, and the work that Miles Parks and his team in Cambridge have done with the IBD bioresource. So there's a wonderful, enthusiasm in the UK for collaborative research, so I really think we're doing this at the right time, in the right place.
That is really one of the strengths of PREdiCCT, is that it fits in extremely well with all the other existing research projects that are going on in the IBD world. It fits extremely well with the UK IBD bioresource.
Yeah, that's right. And I think that is a massive advantage. And also, from a site point of view, this is a very simple study. ask them to consent the patient and recruit them, but all the follow-ups is done centrally after that. So I think it's a fairly simple study for sites as well, and I think that's so important.
And patients can go into PREdiCCT and the bioresource
correct
sequentially, either way around,
yep.
Or at the same time. So Miles and I sat down and designed the sort of baseline phenotyping to be the same, quite a while ago now. So the studies have been designed from the ground up to work together. So just to remind people who may not know, the bioresource, the UK IBD bioresource, is the extension of the UK IBD genetics program. And it's recruiting 25,000 people in England and Wales, with a 10,000 patients in addition from Scotland who have Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis at any point. And they are then in a database that is recallable by genotype or by phenotype for clinicians and scientists, academics, and commercial researchers to access and to do. And we'll make sure we include all the links to that too. So the tie-in for that with PREdiCCT, when we're then doing the longitudinal sampling, that to my mind is the bit that's so critical in terms of answering these big questions, will be really powerful indeed. Lisa, so I'm being wonderfully patient with PREdiCCT, as you know.
Always, Charlie.
But we've hit 1,000, and yes. We're after 3,100, aren't we, Phil?
Yep.
Half Crohn's, half UC. When are we going to hit the magic number?
Ooh, if I get my way by Christmas next year. I'm going to regret saying this now.
By Christmas next year?
Christmas next year.
All right. Not for a Valentine's present before then?
Oh, that would be lovely.
Yeah, okay. No, we'll get there.
Yeah, we will, absolutely.
But I think actually the way things are moving at the moment, the way we're opening sites, that we maybe hit that 3,000 by summer next year, and then people are in follow up, and that would be amazing.
It would be, definitely.
Okay, great. Okay, brilliant. Thanks Phil, thanks Lisa.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank
chatting.
You,
yeah, we'll speak to you all again soon. Okay, brilliant. Thanks. Bye.